The grocery store smelled like oranges, polished floors, and the quiet hum of everyday life. Shopping carts clicked along the tiles, conversations floated like soft background music, and automatic sliding doors sighed open as new customers walked in. It was the kind of small-town supermarket where everyone had walked these aisles 1,000 times, where familiar faces passed each other like clockwork, nodding politely and moving on. But today, something different was about to happen, something no one in that store would forget. Darrell Brooks, 26 years old, tall, calm, and thoughtful, walked slowly down the produce section. He wasn't in a hurry. He never was. His routine was always the same: grab fruit first, then bread, then dairy last, so the milk stayed cold on the car ride home. He moved with quiet ease, one earbud in, a soft jazz piano melody playing, faintly. After a brief moment of tension, he reached for a bag of oranges, bright, fresh, perfect, when a voice cut sharply through the air. Secondly, Darrell didn't register the words, but the silence that followed them, that he felt. He lowered his hand and looked to his left. An elderly woman stood beside the apples, one hand gripping her cart, the other adjusting her glasses. Her hair was silver, curled neatly, and her sweater was buttoned all the way to the top. But her eyes were sharp, cold, and locked on him. Darrell blinked once, slowly. "Sorry," he said gently, unsure he heard correctly. She didn't hesitate. "I said, go back to the place you came from." Her voice was louder now, clear enough to echo through the aisle, clear enough for others to hear. And they did. A young mother, pushing a stroller, froze. A cashier stopped scanning. An older man by the potatoes pretended to examine a bag longer than necessary, watching from the corner of his eye. The world didn't stop, but it slowed. Darrell didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't step forward or backward. He simply stood there, holding his basket, breathing once, deeply. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "do you realize what you just said?" She gave a dismissive snort. "I said what I said. This is our country. People like you should be grateful you're even allowed here." His shoulders rolled back, chin lifted slightly, not in arrogance, but in strength. He placed his basket down, slowly, so the sound didn't break the calm he was choosing to keep. He looked at her, not with anger, but with a kind of steady, quiet disappointment. The kind that makes a person feel small without a single insult spoken. "You don't know where I'm from," he said softly. His voice was low, but it carried. The woman huffed and crossed her arms. "It's obvious. I can see where you come from." Darrell paused. He let silence speak first. Silence is louder than shouting when you know how to use it. Then he said, "My great-great-grandfather was born in Mississippi." A few shoppers leaned in slightly. "He worked farmland he didn't own, sunup to sundown, for almost nothing. Because back then, our family didn't get to choose where we lived." The elderly woman blinked, unsure why he was telling her this, but unable to look away. Darrell continued. "His father, he never even saw freedom. He was forced onto ships, forced into chains, forced to build this country with blood and bone. Someone near the dairy aisle placed their basket down, not leaving, but listening. My grandfather fought in World War II, Darrell said, his voice steady, growing stronger. He risked his life for a country that wouldn't let him sit at the same diner counter when he came home." The older woman's lips parted, just slightly, not in anger this time, in realization. Darrell didn't stop. "My father, he fixes engines, works overtime without complaining. My mother teaches students who don't always treat her kindly, but she shows up every day. Then Daryl took a step forward, just one, slow and grounded. Not threatening, just present. So if you say, I don't belong here, you're also saying, they didn't belong here. He paused. And they are the reason you can stand here, in this store, in this country, freely speaking your mind. The room was silent. Even the hum of the refrigerators seemed quieter. Daryl's voice softened, almost sad now. I am from here, just like you, just like everyone else trying to live their life with dignity. The elderly woman's hand trembled around her shopping cart handle. She inhaled, as if to argue again, but no words came out. Not this time, because truth is heavier than hate. And sometimes, truth doesn't need to shout to be heard. For a long moment, the grocery store was silent, but silence never lasts. Not when pride has been challenged, not when truth has been spoken too clearly to ignore. The elderly woman's fingers tightened around her cart handle. Her jaw set, her face flushed, not from embarrassment, but from anger. People rarely admit when they're wrong. They look for somewhere else to place the blame. Don't you lecture me, she snapped. I was just... But before she could finish, a voice came from 2 aisles down. Ma'am, that was out of line. Everyone turned. Standing near the cereal section was a middle-aged woman in a denim jacket, holding a basket of groceries. She looked tired, maybe from work, maybe from life, but her voice was steady. Everyone heard what you said. It was wrong. The old woman stared at her, stunned, offended even. I was just telling the truth. No, the woman interrupted. You were telling your opinion, and your opinion was ugly. A few people nodded, quietly, discreetly, just enough to show support, but not enough to get involved. The older woman scoffed, waving her hand dismissively. Everyone's too sensitive these days. You can't say anything anymore without someone crying about it. Daryl didn't respond. He didn't have to. Sometimes dignity is the loudest voice in the room. Near the self-checkout stations, a group of teenagers watched with wide eyes. One of them whispered, "Bro, he handled that better than I ever could." Another replied, "Yeah, that was fire." Their laughter was small, nervous, unsure. They didn't know which side to stand on yet, but they were watching, learning. Then something surprising happened. A store employee, young, maybe 20, with a badge that said Marcus, walked over. He didn't look at Darrell. He looked at the elderly woman. "Ma'am," he said gently, "we don't tolerate disrespecting other customers here." She looked at him with disbelief, her voice nearly cracking. "Are you telling me I'm the problem?" Marcus swallowed. He wasn't a fighter, not by build or nature, but there was a quiet bravery in him, the kind people often overlook. "I'm saying, we treat people with respect in this store. That's store policy." Her eyes sharpened, glinting like glass ready to shatter. "Well, maybe I should speak to someone above you," she said. "Who's in charge here?" And that was when things shifted. Because the store manager was already watching. He stepped forward, tall, calm, his eyes evaluating everything. "That would be me," he said. The elderly woman straightened her coat, triumphant. "Good, then tell this boy to watch his tone. He's being disrespectful." The manager shook his head slowly. "No, ma'am, he's not." Her mouth fell open. Excuse me." The manager didn't raise his voice. He didn't step forward. But there was iron in his tone. "You told another customer they don't belong here. That's not acceptable. You owe him an apology." The old woman's face turned red. "Apologize? Apologize for telling the truth? The manager's voice remained steady, but firmer now. For being cruel, yes. The store was quiet again. Not the same silence as before. This one had weight. Darryl watched her, not with hatred, just waiting for who she would choose to be. The woman looked at him, really looked, and for a moment the anger faltered. Her lip trembled, her eyes flickered. But pride is a heavy chain. She grabbed her cart sharply. "I'm leaving," she said. "This place has gone insane." She shoved past the manager and headed toward the exit. But before she reached the automatic doors, Darryl spoke, softly, not to shame her, not to win, just to end the story with dignity. "I forgive you." The words were quiet, but everyone heard them. They didn't land with applause or cheers. They landed with truth, and truth doesn't need to be loud. The woman froze mid-step. Her shoulders stiffened. She didn't turn around. She walked out. The doors side-closed behind her. The tension in the store slowly released, like a breath everyone had been holding. Marcus exhaled. The teenagers looked away awkwardly. The mother with the stroller gently resumed pushing forward. But the manager stepped closer to Darryl. "Are you okay?" he asked. Darryl nodded. "I'm fine." The manager nodded back. "If you need anything, let me know." "You handled that with more grace than most." Darryl didn't smile, but something in his eyes softened. "Thank you." Maya, yes, Maya, stood near the end of the aisle. She hadn't spoken. She hadn't intervened, but she had watched closely. When Darryl walked toward her, she simply said, "You didn't let it change you." He shrugged lightly. "I don't want to live angry. I've seen what that does to people." She nodded. Still, that couldn't have been easy. Darryl took a slow breath. "No, but the easy thing isn't always the right thing." Maya smiled, small but real. "True." They walked forward together. And though the store looked the same, oranges still stacked, carts still rolling, hum still buzzing, something in the air had changed. The store had seen a moment of truth. And truth leaves a mark. The next morning started like any other. Sunlight eased through Darryl's curtains. The kettle whistled. He sat at the kitchen table, eating toast, scrolling casually through his phone. No drama, no tension, just morning. Until his phone buzzed again. Then again, and again. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Dozens of notifications flooded his screen. Missed calls, text messages, mentions, tags. He frowned, confused, as he tapped a link someone had sent him. A video began to play, grainy at first, filmed on a cell phone inside the grocery store. The confrontation. There he was, standing between oranges and apples. The elderly woman's voice echoed clearly. "You people don't belong here." The sound of gasps. The silence. His calm reply. The video didn't show outrage. It didn't show arguments. It didn't show violence. It showed dignity. And dignity, when captured on camera, is louder than any shout. The clip was only 1 minute, 47 seconds long, but it was enough. Underneath the video was the caption. Point, 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 dot, point, point, point. He didn't raise his voice once. And below that, 300,000 views. Then 410,000. Then 680,000. It was climbing by the second. Darryl stared, stunned. His toast sat cold on the table. Meanwhile, across town, the woman in the denim jacket, the one who had spoken up in the store, watched the same video from her car. in the parking lot of her job. Her hands shook slightly. She didn't expect it to spread. She didn't record it. Someone else had, but now, there it was. The moment the world needed to see. She whispered under her breath. I hope he's okay. Because she knew what came next. The internet never just observes. It chooses sides. At the grocery store, Marcus, the young employee, stood behind the customer service desk. His phone lit up with a message from his sister. Is this you in the video? He froze. His heart dropped. There he was, right behind Daryl in the background, speaking up, clear as day. His sister sent a second message. I'm proud of you. He looked down and exhaled, relief mixing with fear. Because pride on the internet lasts only until the comments load. He scrolled. Some comments were supportive. The guy at the register handled that so respectfully. More people need to speak up like him, but others were venomous. He should have stayed out of it. These people always make everything about race. Just soft, emotional nonsense. His chest tightened. Being seen was more frightening than being invisible. Back in Daryl's apartment, his phone rang. Maya. He answered. You've seen it? She didn't ask, she stated. Are you okay? He paused, searching for truth. I don't know yet. Silence hung, thoughtful, not heavy. You didn't do anything wrong, she said. Doesn't mean it'll matter, he answered, because the truth in real life is messy, even when it's clear, especially when it's clear. An hour later, he went to work like normal, but the world did not feel normal. The faces that greeted him were not the same as yesterday's. Some looked at him with respect, some with curiosity, some with something harder to name, something sharper, something jealous, something threatened. His manager walked up to him slowly. Daryl, we saw the video. Daryl nodded. I didn't want any attention. I know, the manager said. But you handled yourself well. That took grace. Daryl breathed in, then out. Thank you. But compliments do not undo the tension of being seen. By noon, news vans lined the grocery store parking lot. Reporters, camera crews, people with microphones rehearsing their lines. A crowd formed near the entrance like a human tide. Some came to support. Some came to sneer. Most just came to watch. Because the world loves a story, even when it forgets the human inside it. Marcus saw them gathering and whispered, "Oh boy." The manager whispered back, "No interviews, no statements. Do your job and stay calm." But calm feels different when the world is staring at you. On the sidewalk outside, Daryl and Maya stood together. The air smelled like asphalt and summer heat. Maya looked at him carefully. What do you want to do? His eyes drifted across the crowd, across the flashing lights, across the people who didn't know him, but believed they did. I don't want to speak for attention, he said. Then speak for the people who don't get heard, Maya replied. He looked at her. Her words weren't dramatic. They weren't rehearsed. They were simple. And simple words are often the most powerful. He stepped forward. The crowd murmured. Cameras turned. Reporters leaned in. A microphone was thrust toward him. Sir, do you have anything to say about what happened yesterday? He didn't look at the cameras. He looked at the people. All of them. Then he spoke. What happened yesterday wasn't about hate. The crowd quieted. It was about choice. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. You choose how you treat people. Every day. In every moment. Even when no one is watching. Maya watched him, heart steady. We all come from somewhere. We all carry stories. And none of us have the right to decide who belongs and who doesn't. He took a breath. Not shaky, not uncertain, grounded. If you saw that video and felt anger, maybe look at why. Silence. Not the uncomfortable kind. The kind that means everyone is listening. Because the world doesn't change when people shout louder. He paused. It changes when people finally listen. And the world, or at least that parking lot, listened. The grocery store parking lot emptied slowly after Daryl's words. People didn't leave because the story was over. They left because something in them was working. Processing. Turning over thoughts they didn't expect to face that day. But news does not fade quietly. Not anymore. Not in a world where screens never sleep. By evening, Daryl's name had spread across feeds, timelines, and group chats. People argued. People defended. People mocked. People praised. He was trending. He never wanted to be trending. That night, Daryl lay awake staring at the ceiling. The room was dark except for the soft blue glow of his phone screen on the nightstand. Notification after notification popped up like fireflies he wanted to swat away. Not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much. When the world learns your name before it knows your heart, you lose control of the story. And losing control of a story hurts. He rolled onto his side and exhaled slowly. A voice came gently through the quiet. "You're not sleeping again." Maya. She sat in a chair by the window, legs crossed, arms folded loosely, not judging, just there. Daryl rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Can't shut my head off. Want to talk about it?" He hesitated. "I didn't do anything special. I just didn't react." Maya shook her head. "You didn't react with anger. That's different." He let the words settle. She continued. "There's strength in choosing control when someone tries to take it from you." Daryl looked at her for a long moment. Her presence was quiet, reassuring, grounding. Not many people know how to sit with someone's silence. But she did. That's why he didn't need to speak anymore. They existed in the same room. No sound. But no loneliness either. The next morning was cold, despite the sun trying to shine through thin clouds. Daryl wore a jacket and left his apartment, heading toward the store again. Not because he wanted to. Because he needed to. Life doesn't pause because the internet pays attention. You still need groceries. You still need milk. You still need to eat breakfast. But today, the store felt different. The sliding doors opened, and the murmurs started instantly. "That's him. I saw the video. He looks shorter in person. He looks taller in person. He looks normal. He looks strong." People will always describe you to each other as if you aren't there. Daryl ignored it. Not out of pride, but survival. He headed toward the produce aisle. The same aisle. The oranges were stacked neatly again. Fresh. Bright. Untouched by yesterday. As he reached for a bag, the store grew quiet. Footsteps behind him. Soft. Careful. Uncertain, he turned. The elderly woman stood there. The same one from yesterday. But she didn't look the same. Not angry. Not righteous. Not proud. Small. Her hands shook slightly as she held the handle of her purse. Her eyes weren't sharp. Now, they were tired. Wet around the edges. Broken in a way that wasn't vindictive, but human. Daryl didn't speak. He didn't move. He simply looked at her. Waiting. Not expecting. Not accusing. Just present. The woman swallowed hard. Her voice was thin. I saw the video. Daryl nodded, slow. She took another breath, shaky and unsure. I didn't think people would hear me. I didn't think it would matter. Daryl's expression didn't change. It mattered, he said quietly. Her lips trembled. I know. Her chest rose with a shudder as she continued. I've been angry for a long time. At life. At people. At the world. And I've said terrible things. But I didn't think about what I was doing. I didn't think about you. She broke off, blinking hard. Not to stop tears, but to survive them. Daryl let the silence hold her words. Not to punish her, but to honor the truth in them. Then she whispered, I'm sorry. The words were not elegant. They were not polished. They were small, but they were real. Daryl inhaled, exhaled, slow, measured. Thank you, he said softly. The woman shut her eyes briefly, relief washing through her like warm rain. But Daryl wasn't finished. His tone remained calm, grounded, direct. You may not realize this, but your words came from somewhere. Pain rarely starts as hate. Something hurt you before you tried to hurt me. Her eyes finally lifted to his. He didn't say it with pity or righteousness. He said it with understanding. Because understanding is not the same as forgiving, but it can lead to it. The woman nodded, once, slow. It did, she whispered. But that's not an excuse. Daryl didn't say she was right. He didn't say she was wrong. He simply nodded back. Equal, not above, not below, equal. And in that moment something passed between them. Humanity. Something we forget exists until we see it clearly. On the other side of the aisle, cameras watched. Phones rose. Whispers buzzed. The store manager noticed. He stepped toward them slowly and said firmly, Put the phones down. And this time, people listened. Because some moments are not meant for the internet. Some moments belong to the people living them. The next day dawned, gray and restless. A light drizzle misted across Hollow Creek, coating the streets in a nervous shine. By now, almost everyone in town had seen the footage from the auditorium. Eli confronting the superintendent, the mayor's server logs flashing behind him like digital lightning. Some called him brave, others called him dangerous. But to Eli Brooks, none of it mattered anymore. He'd pulled back the curtain, and now there was no going back. At school, the halls buzzed with tension. Students whispered when he passed. Teachers fell silent. A few offered half smiles of support. Most avoided eye contact altogether. Maya met him by the stairwell, rainwater dripping from her umbrella. They canceled the debate club meeting, she said quietly. They said it was to prevent further unrest. Eli adjusted the strap of his backpack, expression unreadable. Unrest only happens when people realize they've been too quiet. She sighed. Eli, you're starting to sound like you don't care what happens to you. He finally looked at her. I don't. I care what happens after. That afternoon, Officer Grant sent him a coded message. Grant, the mayor's office is hosting a town broadcast tonight. They'll deny everything. Be ready. Eli's reply was simple. Eli, I already am. He turned his living room into a war room. 2 laptops, 1 cracked tablet, wires snaking across the coffee table. His mother peeked out from the kitchen, worry etched deep in her face. You're not doing anything illegal, right? No, he said softly, eyes never leaving the screens. Just making sure the truth doesn't disappear. By 7 p.m., the town gathered in the community auditorium. Cameras were set, microphones checked, and the mayor stood poised under the harsh glow of stage lights. She spoke with practiced calm. The recent online rumors are the result of misinformation spread by a misguided student. We value truth and integrity here in Hollow Creek. Applause trickled through the crowd. Reporters scribbled notes, and somewhere backstage, an Ethernet cable hummed to life. Eli watched from a dark corner near the maintenance door. Laptop balanced on his knees. The projector screen behind the mayor flickered. The audio glitched. A hush rippled through the crowd. Suddenly, the live feed changed. The screen lit up, not with her speech, but with video clips, documents, emails. City Hall memos, budget transfers, messages proving that the mayor had funded a secret PR group to fabricate posts and discredit students. Her voice cracked mid-sentence. Turn that off, but the tech team couldn't. Eli had mirrored the signal through multiple networks. Every attempt to cut the feed only made the evidence replay again. In the back row, Officer Grant stood guard, pretending to check his phone while quietly recording every second. Maya watched from the crowd, heart pounding, knowing exactly whose fingerprints were behind the code. Unprecedented, security guards rushed toward the maintenance hall. Eli closed his laptop, unplugged the cable, and slipped out the side exit before they arrived. Rain hammered the pavement outside, neon reflections blurring in puddles. His phone buzzed. Maya. They're blaming you again. You have to hide. Eli. I didn't do this to hide. Maya. Then what? To make sure they can't. He shoved the phone in his pocket and disappeared into the storm. Inside the auditorium, the mayor slammed her hands on the podium. This is sabotage, a cyber attack. Arrest that boy, he's a menace. Mayor Allen, with all due respect, those files came from your office. We verified the signatures ourselves. The room froze. The cameras kept rolling. The truth, once buried, was now live on every local channel. Hours later, the broadcast dominated every screen in town. Hollow Creek Truth trended online. People who once doubted Eli now demanded justice. But for every supporter, there was a threat. For every message of praise, a shadow in his inbox. Maya found him the next morning at the train station cafe, sitting by the window with a cup of untouched coffee. She slid into the seat across from him. You did it, she whispered. No, he said. We did it, but it's not over. The mayor's finished, Eli. He shook his head. Someone helped her. Someone bigger. The posts came from more than one source. This goes beyond Hollow Creek. Officer Grant appeared moments later, trench coat damp from the rain. He dropped the folder on the table. You were right, he said. There's a federal trail, contracts with a PR agency, shell companies, fake accounts stretching across multiple towns. They've been silencing whistleblowers for years. Maya blinked. All this from one school scandal. Grant nodded. Every lie starts small. You just happened to pull the first thread. He looked at Eli. You've got choices, kid. Walk away and start fresh, or help us finish this. Eli stared at the rain streaking down the glass. Outside, the world looked washed clean, but he knew the dirt always settled again. If the truth's a war, he murmured, I'm staying on the front line. Period. Bold, white noise. In the star background, Eli sat on the hood of an old car, parked near the hill overlooking Hollow Creek. Below, the courthouse lights glowed like fragile stars. Period. Maya joined him, wrapping her jacket tighter. Period. What happens now? He smiled faintly. Now the system gets to meet someone who isn't afraid to look it in the eye. Period. A streak of lightning flashed behind the clouds. The storm wasn't gone, just waiting. And so was he. Period. In a dim office across town, Mayor Allen sat alone, watching the replay of her downfall. Her phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. Period. You failed. He knows too much. She swallowed hard, the color draining from her face. Meanwhile, in his apartment, Eli opened a new folder on his computer. Operation Truthwave. File 1. Town Hall. Corruption confirmed. File 2. Next target. Regional Communications Director. His reflection in the screen was calm, focused, unstoppable. You wanted silence, he whispered. Now you'll hear everything. The halls of Hollow Creek High looked the same as they always had. Lockers slightly dented, posters peeling at the corners, a bulletin board advertising clubs that barely had members. But walking inside felt different now. Not because of the building, but because of what Daryl carried with him, invisible but heavy. Maya walked beside him, quiet, letting him take in the moment at his own pace. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. They reached the main office, where Principal Carter sat waiting. He was a tall man, with tired eyes but steady posture. The kind of person who carried responsibility like a coat he had learned to live inside. He rose when Daryl entered and offered a warm handshake. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me, Daryl replied. There was no spotlight, no cameras, no microphones, just 3 people in a quiet school hallway. And that was exactly how it needed to be. Principal Carter led them down the hall toward the music room, the echo of their footsteps stretching into wide, silent space. When they reached the doorway, Daryl saw a boy sitting at a piano. Thin shoulders, back slightly hunched. Fingers hovering above the keys, but not pressing down. The hesitation was visible. Principal Carter nodded for Daryl to go in alone. Daryl stepped inside. The door closed quietly behind him. The boy didn't look up right away. Daryl didn't rush him. He simply walked to the chair beside the piano and sat down. No introductions. No pressure. No performance. Just presence. After a few seconds, the boy finally murmured, I didn't think you'd really come. Daryl smiled gently. Sometimes showing up is the most important part. The boy nodded, barely. His voice was small. I saw your video. Daryl let the silence breathe. What did you see? He asked softly. You didn't let her make you small. The words trembled, not from fear, but from truth. Daryl leaned his forearms on his knees. Do people make you feel small, a lot? The boy didn't answer, but his silence was the answer. His fingers finally pressed one key on the piano. A single note. Lonely. Hollow. Echoing. Daryl listened to it fade before speaking again. What's your name? Aaron. That's a strong name, Daryl said. Aaron's lips flickered, not into a smile, but into recognition of warmth. Then Aaron spoke again, quietly, like he was confessing a crime. When people talk to me like I don't matter, I just freeze. I don't know what to say. I don't want to be rude, but I also don't want to let them walk over me. I feel stuck. Daryl nodded slowly. I know that feeling. Aaron looked up surprised. You do? Daryl exhaled, remembering. Yes, more times than I can count. Aaron's shoulders loosened, just a little. "But you didn't freeze in the store," Aaron whispered. Daryl shook his head gently. "Aaron, I froze inside." Aaron blinked. "But you looked so calm." Daryl smiled, but it was a sad smile. Looking calm and being calm aren't always the same thing. Aaron stared, taking that in. Daryl continued, "I wasn't calm because I'm brave. I was calm because I have spent years learning to not give my power away. Even when someone is trying to make you someone you're not, you breathe. You stand up straight. You remember that their words don't get to decide your worth." He placed a hand gently on the piano lid. "And if your voice shakes, that's still your voice, and it still counts." Aaron stared at the keys. His fingers played a few slow notes, soft, unsure, but intentional. The melody wasn't smooth, but it was trying. Daryl listened, not to the music, but to the courage it took to make it. When the last note faded, Aaron whispered, "Do you think people change?" Daryl didn't answer for a moment. He thought of the woman in the store. He thought of her trembling apology. He thought of her eyes, tired, worn, human. Then he nodded. "Yes, but not because they're told to. Because they hear something true. And it reaches a place in them that hasn't gone cold yet." Aaron nodded, slowly, like someone finally understanding something they had been trying to name. Daryl stood. Aaron looked up quickly, afraid the moment was ending. But Daryl placed a hand softly on his shoulder. "You don't have to be loud to be strong." Aaron breathed. "And I don't have to disappear to stay safe." Daryl's voice held no hesitation. "No, you get to exist, fully." For the first time, Aaron smiled. Small, real, fragile, beautiful. When Daryl walked back out of the music room, Maya was waiting in the hallway. One look at his face was enough. She didn't ask how it went. She just nodded. "You did good." And finally, Daryl believed it. Not because of a viral video. Not because of praise. Not because of the crowds. But because he made one person feel less alone. That is a miracle the world forgets to applaud. The storm had not stopped. It only grew sharper, heavier, like the world itself was warning them to turn back. But Eli Brooks had never been the kind to listen to warnings. The SUV sped through winding mountain roads outside Hollow Creek, headlights slicing through the mist. Maya sat beside him, her face pale in the flickering glow of the dashboard. Neither spoke for miles. Finally, she broke the silence. "They burned the lab, Eli. They killed your trail." He stared out the window at the endless forest beyond. "Then we make a new one." "You really think you can take down a network like that, alone?" He turned to her, voice steady. "I'm not alone anymore." They reached an abandoned radio station just before dawn. Rusted towers, shattered windows, and an old broadcast room that still hummed faintly with forgotten power. It was the perfect ghost, no signal, no eyes. Eli connected his laptop to the dusty console, sparks flickering from the ancient wires. A map appeared on the screen, dozens of red nodes blinking across states, each one a signal from the Vanguard Syndicate's secret servers. "This is it," Maya whispered. "You're going after all of them." He nodded. "I'm not leaking files this time. I'm giving people the whole system, their lies, their funding, their faces, all of it." "That's suicide," she said. "No," he murmured. "That's justice." Meanwhile, deep in a sleek glass tower, far from Hollow Creek, a group of executives gathered around a massive table. At the head sat Evelyn Chase, a name that once meant philanthropy and progress. Now, her calm voice carried the cold precision of command. The Brooks boy has become a national problem, she said. He's spreading faster than we can silence. Shut down his network. A technician shook his head. We've tried. Every file he releases multiplies through mirrors. It's self-replicating. Evelyn leaned forward. Then we cut the source. A photo of Eli flashed on the holographic display. Hood up, eyes sharp, expression unreadable. Find him, she ordered, and erase him. Back at the radio station, Eli worked like a machine. Lines of code flew across the screen. Wires sparked under his fingers. Every keystroke was a countdown. Maya handed him a coffee, though her hands trembled. Once you hit upload, they'll trace it. I know. And then what? He looked at her, eyes calm, resolute. Then I stop hiding. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the lights in the station flickered as Eli's broadcast went live. Across the country, televisions, computers, and phones glitched for a split second, then streamed the same feed. Eli Brooks appeared on screen, sitting before a cracked microphone, rain thundering behind him. My name is Eli Brooks, he began, his voice echoing through millions of speakers. You've been lied to, for years, by people who said they were protecting you. Screens displayed documents, chat logs, and security footage. The syndicate funding school campaigns, influencing town elections, framing whistleblowers. They call it control, Eli continued. I call it fear. But fear only works when we stay quiet. I stayed quiet my whole life. Not anymore. Far away, in her tower, Evelyn watched in disbelief as her systems failed one by one. Her technicians scrambled. He's not in the grid, one shouted. He's broadcasting through analog radio frequencies. Something we can't intercept. Evelyn slammed her hand against the table. Then, destroy the tower manually. But by the time her orders reached the ground team, the storm had already swallowed the roads. In the radio station, power alarms beeped. The old generator was dying. Maya stood near the door, watching flashes of lightning tear through the valley below. Eli, she said, they'll come for us. He smiled faintly. Then they'll have to find the signal first. He inserted a small silver drive into the console, a failsafe connected to cloud mirrors worldwide. Once uploaded, nothing could stop the spread. You ready? He asked. Maya took a deep breath. With you? Always. Suddenly, a low rumble grew outside. Engines. Black SUVs emerged through the rain, headlights slicing through the fog. Maya's eyes widened. They're here. Eli hit the final key, a soft beep. Upload would never be the same. Gunfire shattered the silence as the door burst open. Masked agents stormed in. Hands up, step away from the console. Eli raised his hands slowly, calm, even in the chaos. You're too late, he said. Evelyn's voice barked through their comms, desperate. Shut it down. Kill the broadcast. But there was nothing left to kill. The truth was already alive. Maya was dragged outside, screaming his name. Eli stood still as the agents surrounded him. One of them hesitated, gun trembling. Kid, what did you do? Eli smiled faintly. I gave you your freedom back. Lightning cracked above, flooding the world in white. By dawn, the syndicate's secrets flooded every corner of the internet. Major networks broadcast the data live. The world woke to corruption it could no longer ignore. Arrests followed. Evelyn Chase was taken into custody before noon. Dozens of officials resigned overnight. And Hollow Creek, the town where it all began, was finally quiet. Weeks later, Maya stood at the rebuilt radio station, a small memorial plaque glinting in the sunlight. It read simply, Eli Brooks, the voice that broke the silence. A soft breeze brushed through the trees. She looked up, eyes glistening. "You did it, Eli," she whispered. "You really did." Somewhere far away, a signal blinked on a dusty server. Eli's encrypted voice, pre-recorded, hidden in the data. "If you're hearing this," his voice said, "it means the world finally knows the truth. Don't waste it. Speak louder than I ever did." Fade out. Rain gives way to sunlight. Silence turns to applause. The truth finally breathes free. Sometimes one voice is enough to shake the world. Don't be afraid to speak your truth, no matter who tries to silence you. If you felt Eli's story, like, comment, and share it, because someone out there needs to hear it tonight. End.